Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Parleh Show with Bet99. I'm Rob Conway in Toronto. This is Albert Vartanian, my co-host, and busy show we got coming up today, Albert. We got the NBA draft tonight. The Blue Jays are starting to turn things around, and we're going to have a little segment at the end called The Great Debate. I got 3 burning questions that I'm going to ask you and our other co-host. His name is Matthew Barnaby. He's our former NHLer and betting guru in Ottawa. Doesn't look like he's headed to the golf course today, though, Barney. Although you could be.
Looks are deceiving. I'm definitely headed to the golf course after, but had some stuff to do this morning. Got it all done doing this show, and then gonna head out. Probably only play 9 today. Maybe practice a little bit because I was not very good yesterday. So practice makes perfect is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. It sometimes makes you worse.
It does. If you're practicing, poor practice doesn't make you better. That's for sure. You're just reinforcing bad habits. But it is officially summer. I'm personally heading up to Horseshoe Valley for just the night. It was my first Father's Day on the weekend, and we had a family thing. So my wife planned this nice little thing to go up with our baby.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's very nice. Summer, it's hot. Barney, you're golfing. I don't golf as much, but I'm trying to. Albert, you are now healthy with your hand and ready to go. You look like you're ready to tee it up.
I know. That's what everyone keeps saying.
You got the Bubba Watson button right up to the top look as well, and everything going on. Now, I am a big poolside guy. Like Barney, you remember when we were in Arizona and we golf every single day, and you were there with Rhonda, and Natasha was there, Rhonda's friend, and they were poolside every day. And I was like, I would just as well let you guys go golfing. But it was all of my friends. So I had friends from 3 different friend bases. I had a guy from my golf who was in my wedding party, a new friend I know, and then Barney. So I felt, Barney, you can agree, I was the glue guy in this thing. You guys wouldn't have been able to golf without me, correct?
Well, you certainly became unglued a few times during the trip. I can certainly vouch for that. So yes, the glue guy that brought everyone together, and then we had to hold you together a few times.
A couple of times.
I'm not a poolside guy.
No, eh?
No, I get bored. I really get bored. I don't mind going for an hour, but I can't lay there all day long. I'd much rather be in a casino or playing golf rather than poolside. But the wife loves it, so sometimes you have to do it.
I'm the same way. You got to get moving, man. Can't just sit there the whole time. Yeah, you get a few drinks, but you want to do stuff. Talk to people, move around, play some golf.
I can do the swim up bar in Mexico for like 8 hours straight.
Oh, that's brutal. Are you the pee in the pool guy?
No.
Oh, yeah, you are. Dude, if you're there for 8 hours?
No, I get out of the pool. I'm just saying I can
and you throw down 12 beers in those small plastic cups.
You don't even finish those because it gets so warm.
I can't believe you're a pee in the pool guy.
I'm not a pee in the pool guy.
You are.
He totally is.
Never.
Definitely. 100%.
Never. I hope they have a lot of chlorine in those bad boys.
I'm going to Mexico in August, beginning of August. And they have a pool bar. I plan to spend a lot of time.
Okay, well, if you're going in August, I've been to Mexico. I golfed on my birthday, which is July 31st, in case you guys want to write that down. And it was 40. It's producer Ellie's birthday too. All right.
Wow.
And so we went golfing. It was 44 degrees, but I kept saying to my buddy, it only feels like 44. It's really only 38.
That's brutal, man.
And so you're going to be in Mexico. You will be in the pool because it's going to be warm.
Yeah, there's a golf course on the resort, but I don't think I'm going to play in that weather. No,
you can play 6 a.m. Get out there by 6, get down by 9.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in Mexico, play at 6 a.m.
That's not happening. There's no way that's
You're still up. You're still up playing the 9. Anyways, looking forward to a good few months. We're being Canadian. This is what we get. I just don't want to hear anyone say it's too hot because when it's minus 40 in January, you really would love to have a 35 degree weather.
I love the 4 seasons, so I'm easy.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like the snow is great. Like it's not that bad. Man.
Yeah.
It really isn't that bad.
Barney, you're a warm guy all the time, right?
Yeah, we don't really have 4 seasons anymore. I'd say 3. There's no real spring.
Yeah, that's true.
Anymore, but I love the heat. Just bring on the heat. I can jump in a pool quick. I can play golf. I'm a big cottage guy in the summer now. I was never a big cottage guy until the wife suggested we get one, and now I'm a huge cottage guy. There's no worries when I'm at the cottage.
You do have a pretty sick cottage and a couple of nice toys there with the jet skis,
I love that.
which I've gunned on 50 kilometers an hour. And,
unbelievable.
And a nice little pontoon boat and everything, which we didn't have when I was there 2 years ago. Remember, it was back ordered forever. So I'll be looking forward to it in August, getting my first little tour of the lake in the pontoon boat. Let's get into Hockey Hall of Fame announcements. Barney, you are close to this because of the fact that you have played with players that are getting inducted, players that aren't getting inducted. And, every year it seems the likes of Jeremy Roenick and Alexander McGinley on the top of your tongue of players that do not get inducted every year. And it's never to take away necessarily from who is getting in. I just want to make that clear. When you're saying, oh, this person should be instead of another person, it's not because the other person doesn't deserve it. It's that the other person's sitting there waiting to go. But look, you're the one with the most expertise here. Barrasso, Vernon, Huillet, and Turgeon, among some other, I think Ken
Hitchcock,
Hitchcock.
In the builder section.
In the builder section, yeah. So just your reaction, like to those guys. You played with Barrasso. I think you probably played against Vernon, maybe Turgeon as well. And, you've played with the likes, like I say, of Roenick and McGinley. And I saw McGinley's name a bunch yesterday, and we agree that Roenick should be in there too. Not just if you just want to look at it from an American hockey player standpoint, but even still, just as a general hockey player should be. But McGinley's name a lot too. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll never disparage guys that or women that go into the Hall of Fame. If your name's even in consideration, then there's no reason that I or anyone else should have a problem with it. It's the people that don't get in that I have a problem with. And you look at Jeremy Roenick, his points per game, what he did for American hockey in a time that really took it to the next level. And you can put Pat LaFontaine in that group. So many great American players. But Jeremy Roenick is right up there. And getting to know him, there's nothing more I would want for him because he loves hockey, he loves people. And I just know how much it would mean to him. And he deserves it. Frankly, he deserves it. But one guy I did play with, Alexander McGinley, it's a travesty that he's not in there. You look at his points per game, defecting from Russia, coming over to play, and people are saying, oh, we're not going to let Russian players in right now because of what's going on between them and Ukraine. Like, is there anything more stupid and political? And here's a guy that left Russia to come to North America and escape, and what he did for hockey, and one of the best players of his generation. He was absolutely phenomenal. Great person, great player, Stanley Cup champion. Check off the boxes. He did it all. And I just remember his 76-goal season with Pat LaFontaine, get 148 points that year. That was the year I was coming in at the end of the year, turning pro. So those two guys deserve to be in. I'm sure Patrick Marleau is going to get in before these two guys get in. You could talk about Cujo not getting in, 7th most wins of all time for a goaltender. But, Tom Barrasso, I played with. He was a Calder trophy winner coming out of high school, 2-time Stanley Cup champion, a Vezina winner. All these people deserve to be in, but it really is ridiculous that those two, and you can even throw in Keith Tkachuk, over 500 goals in the National Hockey League, that he's not in there. If the Sedin twins are in with those numbers, with the numbers that they have, great players. They deserve to be in. Those guys should be in as well.
Barney, how much do players think about or talk about the Hall of Fame amongst themselves, maybe in the locker room or during the regular season?
Not at all. Not at all. It's one of those things. I think the great players, they all aspire to be in there. But Connor McDavid doesn't put any thought, or Sidney Crosby. I think they play their game. And as they get to the end of their career, they look back. And I think the important thing for all athletes is to stay in the moment. Never look too far in the past. Never look too far in the future. Never get too high on your highs and too low on your lows. And I talk about this with my own son. Being an athlete is the greatest of all highs, and sometimes can be the lowest of all lows. And you have to really stay in the moment. I think the great players do a great job of not thinking about what the future might bring. Listen, Sidney Crosby knows he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Connor McDavid knows he's going to be a Hall of Famer, but they stay in the moment. When their career is done, they're like, oh, I'm a Hall of Famer now.
You've played with lots of Hall of Famers. I don't know if you know the exact number off the top of your head, but I worked when I was the head coach for golf at Seneca College for Angela James, who's in the Hockey Hall of Fame, and talked to her a bit about some of the festivities around induction week and in Toronto, and going to Gretzky's bar, which unfortunately is no longer. I'm assuming yes, but have you been to any Hockey Hall of Fame induction weekend in Toronto, and any good stories?
Well, I'm just going to rattle off a bunch of names. I know you hate when I do this.
Yeah.
Hey, Mass Dog, we played golf together or whatever. Listen to the list of Hall of Famers that I've played with. I won't go over all of them, but I'll give you a pretty good list. Dominic Hasek, Pat LaFontaine, Mario Lemieux, Marty St. Louis, Joe Sakic, Peter Forsberg, Rob Blake, Mark Messier, Brian Leach.
Wow.
Jaromir Jagr's another pretty good player that I played with. The list just goes on and on and on. And it was Mike Modano, Sergei Zubov. Very fortunate to play with. Eric Lindros is the only one. I've been invited to Dominic Hasek's and his agent. I wrote back, I go, you know, I don't like Dominic Hasek, right? And I won't be attending his party in Toronto. So I never got a respond email, but that's okay. Eric Lindros, I did go to his induction, went to his party after. It was absolutely awesome and true. Eric, like, we all show up in suits and pocket squares, and he shows up to the after party in jeans, flip-flops, and a white untucked shirt. Just was a privilege to be his teammate. He was also my roommate for 3 years in New York and a year in Dallas. But we just had an awesome time. I think it was at the Ritz-Carlton, the after party. Just stories and stories and stories from all former players that he was there with, John LeClaire and so many, Michael Renberg, so many different guys. But I was privileged to go to that one. A great time. And I was very fortunate to play with so many Hall of Famers.
That is quite the list, Albert, of players that our good friend here, Matthew Barnaby, has been privileged to play with. I have personally played with all of them too on video games.
Same.
I think most of them anyway. Maybe not. I think most of them.
Most of them, yeah.
Yeah, I think
you mentioned Yager. He'll get in, obviously, but he's still playing.
He's still playing.
Still going.
Yeah.
So I think the eligibility is 3 years, right? You got to be retired for at least 3 years.
I think Gretzky and Lemieux were the only two that went in right away.
Right away, which is almost like a.
But he's playing he owns the team, right?
He's never going to get in the Hall of Fame until he dies. He's going to be 98 playing for Platinum or whatever.
Yeah, because he was. I think at one point he said, like, I'm the reason why people come to watch, and there's investors, and I got to keep playing. And every once in a while we see a highlight on TV where he scores. So
he loves it. He loves it.
Unbelievable. Well, that was pretty. A pretty good list, but. Congratulations to everybody. Like, again, the point of that conversation is never to take away from the people that get in, because they're much deserving. It's more a matter of sometimes when you have a guy like you, Barney, who's played with other players, you know how good they are. And then you see also on social media the names come up. But it's a debate every single year. Congratulations to everybody there. We're going to take a quick break here on the Parleh Show. But coming up, we're going to talk about the Jays. Last time we had a chat, it was Disaster City. All of a sudden, they're back and things are rolling. We will see. And, of course, we'll have the great debate coming up with 3 tough questions for Albert and Matthew. All right, welcome back to the Parleh Show with Bet99. Rob Conway, Albert Vartanian, and of course, Matthew Barnaby is with us as well. We're getting into the Blue Jays here. And look, last time we chatted, it's panic time in Toronto. And this is what 2 wins will do for you. 2 good wins too. Yusei Kikuchi with an unbelievable performance. Kevin Gausman now his best stuff, but this is a guy who's up for a Cy Young. First of all, like, when you're thinking about what those 2 starts do, now you get a day off. I'll start with you, Albert. Like, what does that do for the clubhouse, the bullpen, everything? Like, you have to think that the players, they had a players only meeting a few weeks ago. You have to think they're kind of treading water, if you will. And now all of a sudden you get this nice performance back to back. You're coming home, you're playing the Athletics.
Yeah.
You're thinking you're sweeping that.
You think.
What do you think that's going to do, those 2 performances we just saw?
We keep saying, at least I feel like I keep saying, that they're turning your corner. They weren't great on this road trip, but let's not forget, heading into this Miami series, they were 2-5 on this 9-game road trip.
Yeah.
And they won 2 of them. They won the series against a Miami team that's a bit of a startup. They're playing really well. So you go 4-5 on a 9-game road trip based on the way the Jays are playing. It's not all that bad. You get a bad outing from Barrios, but then that's backed up by a good one from Kikuchi, who probably could have gone 7 or 8 in that game, but they're monitoring his innings and how deep he goes. And Gausman looks fantastic yesterday. So, I mean, it's positive for the Jays from a pitching front. I'm still a little bit concerned, though, about the bats. I mean, Vladdy doesn't look great. I'm looking at Vladdy's numbers, and it feels like his new thing to do now is ground into double plays, and he leads, I believe, the American League in double plays, and he led the league last year in that. So it's just something that he does, but the bats are still concerning for me. It was nice to see Chapman hit a home run, but I don't think this team will really start going until Vladdy starts going.
I can't disagree with you on that. I mean, Barney, you talk about a guy like Vladdy. We were talking about how much money he might make and all that stuff, but he has this I listen to a lot of, Jay's talk, if you will, and the exit velo, or the batted balls in play,
Right.
and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Some of them, the analytics, and that they're good. They're positive for him. It's that he's maybe getting a bit unlucky, or that he can't seem to elevate the ball. And a lot of these maybe
the breakout's coming.
Yeah, the breakout's coming. As a former player, what is that like when you feel like everything's there and it's clicking, and yet you can't seem to get over the hump?
It's a great question, and I'm going to take the opposite approach of Albert in the fact that the pitching's there now, and the strength of this team is their bats. And when you're good batters, and they have a lot of them in that lineup, inevitably it's going to change. And there's nothing worse than being in a slump in any sport, and how the self-doubt starts to play in, and how you start to doubt yourself, and talk about highs and lows of being an athlete. And that certainly goes through for a pitcher, and it certainly goes through for a batter. Same thing as a scorer in the NHL. You start to doubt yourself, but when you feel you're doing the right things, and analytically people are starting to tell you, okay, we're right there, you start to have that belief. And when you're a good batter or a good scorer, inevitably it's going to come around, and you're going to get out of that slump, and usually you catch fire. So I'm on a buy on the Blue Jays, whereas last week I was probably on a sell. Now I'm probably on a buy, and I think this is a good time to get a weaker opponent coming in for a series where you believe that the bats will come through, and pitching has been very good.
It's so interesting. I was listening to Johnny Marsh's show yesterday on a podcast, the Spit and Chicklets podcast, and they asked him, like, the first, I think, 6 or 7 games of the playoffs, he went goalless.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And he's like, man, I thought I was like playing pretty well. And he goes, I was talking to Phil Kessel, and he was like, dude, you're playing well. Don't worry, it'll come. And look what happens. Like he ends up winning the Conn Smythe and leads the playoff in goals. So I think that's kind of what's happening with Vladdy. It's a bit extended, and it's much more difficult to take in because it's Vladdy. He is the number 1 guy on this team. But things are trending in the right direction. And when you get to play the A's, the worst team in baseball, this is the perfect time.
Yeah. And what is it to say, Barn, like when you're talking about a guy like Vladdy who has never failed at baseball, almost, I mean, like probably since he first picked up a bat, he hit a bomb off of Vladdy Sr. with a little lob ball with one of those big inflatable bats, and all the way up, top prospect in baseball, all that stuff. And to start to struggle, obviously you've never gone through that if you're Vladdy. So like, is there a chance that he won't be able to respond well to it? Or is he just way too talented? And have you seen players that are that talented, been that successful, go through the struggles and not turn it around, or they do turn it around always just based on talent?
I'd say there's probably 2 players in the history of hockey that haven't went through a struggle of some kind, Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux. Maybe those 2. I don't think they ever struggled to put points up on the board. He's too good. He's too good. He hits the ball way too well. And his struggles just in Toronto alone at home, it's going to change. He's too good a batter. And there's a reason why you talked about last show, trying to wrap him up early now. He knows his worth. He knows how good he is. And sometimes you need, you're going to go through struggles. And it's not always for every player going to be honky-dory, and you're going to be at the elite level every single time. You're going to go through some peaks. You're going to go through some valleys. But he's too good. When he gets it back, watch out. This team will be dangerous.
Yeah, just a half game out of the wild card, right? It's not all bad for the Jays, but they need to, they absolutely need to address their pitching, because if another starter goes down, they're finished.
Well, they're
absolutely done.
They're 4-man rotation right now.
Essentially, running the bullpen.
And we've been talking about it. It's so funny to see Alcantara like doing the exact same thing as Alek Manoah. This guy is a Cy Young winner, struggling. And Alek Manoah is gone. I think when's
Manoah coming back? That's the question.
It's a good question. And that's the thing. Like, do you know how you always say you don't want to rush a guy back when it's an injury, right? Like, you're like, okay, great. So if like, you're Connor McDavid's hurt, but the Oilers are still winning, then you can, like push it as long as you can. It's okay. There's no desperation there. There's a bit of desperation, Albert, like you said, that they're in a 4-man rotation. They get a couple of days off in the right spot, so they've been okay. But he's not even injured. So do you really want to push it back forever?
No, I think you give him as much time as you possibly can. He's throwing simulated games right now. I think he threw like 76 pitches or whatever. So they're monitoring it. But I mean, you just don't know. So I think at this point, you are not in a position where, let's say, the Oilers are in a playoff spot for the entire regular season, and they can probably make the playoffs without Connor McDavid. The Jays don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
So you have to go out and make a big move and bring in a pitcher. But this happens with pitchers. Like Chris Bassett said it too. He goes, throughout my career, I've been sent down 4 or 5 times. It just happens. Look at Dallas Keuchel former Cy Young Award winner, just signed a minor league deal. He's not even playing in the bigs anymore.
Yeah.
So it happens with these pitchers. But I would absolutely not rush Alek Manoah. I'd go out. You got to make some sort of deal. Bring somebody in who can eat up some innings. He may not be the best pitcher, but if he can save your bullpen for your 1, 2, and 3 guys, that's probably the play you want to go with.
Yeah, there's a guy out in Milwaukee right now, Julio Teheran. They pulled him off the heap, and he's been unbelievable. If you can find somebody like that too, that's just gonna.
I think they just need an innings eater. That's what they need.
Yeah, just somebody to keep them in a game, and to not tax
the
bullpen's
gonna get that bullpen's ready weak, and you don't want to blow up those arms too early.
Yeah, it's frustrating too with that bullpen, because of the fact that I just don't like the way it's set up, and I think you need to add to that bullpen, and it's so expensive at the deadline. I don't think, and they need other things. I don't think it's going to be addressed. We saw it in Game 2 against Seattle. They just don't have a fireball thrower other than Jordan Romano. And they don't have a way to get him. They can't get to the ninth
Pearson's
inning.
got some gas, but he's still young.
That's a new addition, and hopefully that works out. If he can throw it at 100 and be solid like that, but you can't just keep throwing a guy like Simber and Richards and these guys that are trying to throw hooks all day, that if it's not there, they're either walking everybody or they're giving up bombs. Sometimes you just need, like the Orioles, they had Perez and they have Tate and they had Bautista last year, and it was just 101, 101, 101, go ahead and hit it.
Last thing on Manoah, if they don't get a wiggle room and they don't sweep the Athletics, that's where there's going to be pressure built up. You don't want to rush them back. But unfortunately, the pressure from the media and the fans, and you're like, all right, this guy's our stud. We need him back. We need him to find his game. And the pressure will mount if they don't get some wiggle room.
It will. It'll be interesting to see. Lots of crazy stories around Major League Baseball, not just around the Jays, but this is Luis Arraez. We just got to see him playing Miami. The guy's unbelievable. He has 3 5-for-5 games in this month. He's batting 400 or around 400, goes game to game. And the last guy to do it was Ted Williams. And I think the last guy to even be close was 390. I think it was Tony Gwynn.
He's at 398 right now.
398 now. He probably just had a 1-for-4 game or something, and then it drops below. I don't think, I'll let you go, Albert, but I don't think he's going to get there. It's just too much of an ask. But man, is he impressive trying to get it.
It's hard to say. It's hard to predict these things. But based on what he's doing, you think he's going to get there. But we haven't even reached the All-Star game yet.
Yeah.
So let's get to the middle of the season and go from there. And who knows how long Miami's going to be doing this. But based on the nature of baseball, there's a long slump that's going to come.
Yeah.
I would still think that he's probably going to finish the season maybe 340, 350. I mean, it's hard to take that big of a dip.
Yeah, big time. I don't know. It's some of these records in baseball, like hitting 400, 56 game hitting streak or whatever. They're just nuts. Like the idea that
different time, different baseball, right? Like those guys weren't facing the hurlers these guys are facing now, man. 101 on the gun.
No,
like you're getting that from starters and relievers. Like, good luck.
We got some other, like just going through the standings. Like I think America's team right now, the Cincinnati Reds.
America's team.
That's what they're deeming themselves. They've been on an 11-game win streak or 12-game.
There's some fun players to watch. Joey Votto's back.
Joey Votto, yeah.
Ellie De La Cruz is unbelievable. 100 miles an hour. Like I love that kid.
Barney, are you gonna? Other than the Jays, are you jumping on any teams this year that you like, that you're thinking about betting more, or are you kind of sitting to the sidelines?
I'm sitting to the sidelines right now, just kind of following the Jays, monitoring that. I've actually been zigging and zagging the wrong way betting them. When I bet them, they bet on them, they lose. They get crushed 11-0 when I bet against them, and then they don't put up the 3.5 runs that I was hoping for. They just win 2-0. So I've been zigging and zagging, but I'm going to be heavy on them this week in this next series. So they're the team I'm focused on the most, and the others I'm just kind of watching from afar and trying to find the right time to bet.
Yeah, and you got the Diamondbacks in the lead. They obviously, with a big trade with Toronto, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Gabe Moreno are playing unbelievable out there. They're leading the West, which, has the Giants, Dodgers, Padres in it, the Rockies in the basement, but we'd expect both the Dodgers and the Padres to make a run. And I don't know, Albert, like when you're looking at it from who's going to win the division, I think the only one you can be really confident in is Tampa Bay and Atlanta at this point.
Tampa seems like a lock.
It's got to be, right?
But you never know with the AL East, right? Based on what happens. Like I keep saying, like there's so much room in baseball. We haven't reached the All-Star game yet. I would probably give the AL East to Tampa, but you're looking at the rest of the divisions and it's pretty open.
Yeah.
I mean, Texas wasn't supposed to be in this position.
No.
There's a good chance that they fall off. I think Simeon's probably going to stay hot for the rest of the year. He's been so good. But I mean, when it comes to winning divisions, it's too difficult. But if you have a big enough lead, it should be okay.
Yeah, I think the Mariners were like 8 games out of a wild card spot at this point last year, and of course they went on to make the playoffs, beat the Jays, and move on. So yes, there is a lot of runway. But I think if you're a Jays, just to wrap this up, if you're a Jays fan, you got to forget about the Rays at this point. I think the
AL East is done.
Your number right now is the 45-28 Baltimore Orioles. If you can get to second place, I think you're guaranteed a playoff spot. There's going to be at least 2, if not 3 teams coming out of the AL East.
There's 3 spots in the wild card to make, right?
And but it can all come from the East.
They're battling not with just the Baltimore Orioles and a couple AL East teams. Look at the Los Angeles Angels. They're humming right now. Yeah, they're both a half game back.
We're going to get into that.
Look at the Athletics right now. That's all they have to worry about.
Exactly. That's bang on.
The 19-57 Oakland Athletics heading to Rogers Center.
By the way, just on the Texas Rangers.
minus 205 run differential.
Just on the Texas Rangers. So according to the run line, they cover 63% of the time, which is unbelievable.
The Rangers?
On the run line.
Wow.
That's how good they've been. How good they've been.
Now, I will say this. They are batting like 320 with runners in scoring position. Like it's some crazy number that's not sustainable.
Jays have a big problem with that.
Yeah, and their OP, their on base percentage, their average, their runs produced are all kind of the same as the Jays. One team's batting like 180 with runners in scoring position. The other team's batting 320. But that's the way it is.
Just get the fall ball. That's it. Get the fall ball, and then we'll go from there.
All right, sounds good. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we will have the great debate. We're going to talk about Victor Wembanyama, Connor Bedard, Ohtani,
there you go,
and the Leafs. There, I got it. All right, here we go. We'll be back after this. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Parleh Show with Bet99. Rob Conway here, and it is time for our first, official named segment that we've ever had here on the Parleh Show. It is the great debate.
We need some trumpets.
Yeah, we need to get. You know what? We'll have a stinger going next time with a little bit of graphic going. I kind of threw this on everybody last night around 10 p.m. So this will have a little bit more of an official nature. But I'm gonna have 3 burning questions that I think are extremely hot takes, one way or the other, and all of us will get an opportunity, 30 to 60 seconds, to make our case on why it's going to happen. I will start with you, Albert, for the first question. The first question, it is NBA draft night tonight, and it is Victor Wembanyama, although after seeing him throw an opening pitch, I don't know if I would draft him first overall. Because
they should have let him do that, by the way.
I mean, I don't blame him because, him holding a baseball is like his hands.
See that, dude? He almost wrapped around.
I know. So the grip I can understand, but you got to be able to throw a ball if you're an athlete.
But it's a different type of situation. The pressure. Look at Travis Kelce. He can throw a ball straight. The first time he did it was a disaster.
Yeah, I know. Barney, your thoughts? You ever thrown out an opening pitch like a Bison's game or anything?
No, I've taken batting practice with them, but I've never thrown an opening pitch. And I'm not gonna lie, the kids, I coached the Kitchener Rangers in the OHL, all great athletes. These kids only play one sport.
I know.
We took them bowling one day, and it was the biggest disaster I've ever seen. These guys are 17 to 20-year-olds and can't throw a ball 10 feet without it going in the gutter. They had to put up the barriers on the side, the kiddie things, just awful. And me and Jay McKee are looking at these kids going, "Don't you guys ever?" And then you go throw a football with them outside or a baseball. It's disaster. These kids, not athletes.
All right, well, let it slide, Victor Wembanyama.
That's how they get to that point. They only play one sport the whole time, right?
Well, don't expect him to be throwing a one-handed outlet pass. Let's just say that.
No, I've seen him do it a few times, actually.
Yeah, and he probably does it okay, right?
Highlights. I'm not going to say I've watched them, but highlights.
All right, so this is the question. Victor Wembanyama, number 1 overall. He's a generational talent, maybe the most exciting since LeBron James. We also have Connor Bedard coming up next week, going to be drafted first overall, we assume. The most exciting since Connor McDavid.
We're entering a really good era in sports.
Very good. Very, very good. My question for you, Albert. Who will have the better career?
Man, that's hard. That's difficult to say. What are we basing this on? Individual statistics?
Yeah,
awards,
just overall.
trophies?
At the end of the year, you're going to look at the end of this careers, you'll look at it and say, this guy was better than this guy.
Yeah, it's tough to say because just an example. Look at remember Pat McCaw? He rode the bench for the Raptors and won a championship. Yeah. So he won a championship. 2 years before that, he rode the bench for the Golden State Warriors and won back-to-back championships. Yeah. He has 3 championships. No one knows his name. Is that a successful career? Maybe. I mean, for him. But between these two guys, I feel like they're both built for the new era in their sports. So the NBA is now all about the point center. a big man who can shoot, he can pass, he can dribble, he can do everything. Basically, Nikola Jokic. I think that's what Victor Wembanyama, I can't even say his name, Wemby. I think that's who Wemby is. And he's playing for a really good team in terms of San Antonio Spurs. They're not going to be good for a long time, but right culture, right coach, similar player in Tim Duncan. That's who people seem to be comparing him to, who Pop really, helped grow and end up being one of the best big men of all time. So that's Wemby. For Bedard, man, that's tough to say. Generational talent, obviously, but I feel like in the NHL, it's a lot more difficult to be as successful as an individual. An individual in the NBA, I think, can have more success and have give one team more of an advantage than you can in the NHL, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go Wembanyama. I don't exactly agree with that, but that's the way I'm going.
Barney?
I don't think it's close. Wembanyama.
Yeah?
Yeah, 7'3", 7'4", shoots threes. I think Connor Bedard is going to be a heck of a player.
Yeah.
And whether either of them win championships, that's going to be a long time for either of them before they even have the opportunity. But you give me a guy that shoots threes and big man down the middle. I mean, he looks unstoppable. Now, both of them have to avoid injury, and so many things have to play into it. But on pure talent, we're looking at LeBron. We're looking at, guys that were coming out. Mario Lemieux was a sure hit thing. Gretzky, LeBron James. We've seen what they are doing. I don't have that. I know Bedard's going to be number 1 overall, and I know he's going to have a fantastic career, but I don't have expectations of him being a Hall of Famer right from the start like we did with LeBron. Shohei Ohtani, when he came over here, we've seen what he's done. Wembanyama, I think, checks all the boxes. When you look at if he plays and develops like we think he can, he's a sure Hall of Famer at the end of his career.
Yeah, and Wemby has a huge influence on both sides of the game. Defensively, he's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
He just mentioned he's blocking shots. He's like, I just do that every single game. Offensively, he's going to lead the team. So if you're leading the team on both sides, Bedard can't do that, right? It's going to be a lot more difficult for him.
For me, I think that the safer bet would be Bedard. And the reason for that is I can say with more certainty that a smallish player with a really good release, if surrounded by decent playmaking players around him, will score 40 goals a year and do that for 10 years in a league that no longer really punishes small players. But
he can fire it.
Yeah.
He can fire it.
And Victor Wembanyama is something we've never seen before. How will that translate into, the NBA with bigger, stronger players? He's only 19. He'll fill out probably. Will that affect him too? Will that affect him? Just his body changing. I have no doubt that both these players are going to be fantastic. I think Wembanyama has the opportunity to be a legend in his sport. I don't think Bedard does, but if I had to go with the safer play, I would go with Connor Bedard just because I've seen it.
You said Wemby's going to be a legend and Bedard won't.
Has the chance to be one. I just don't know. I just never seen anything like this before.
I hope they both become legends, honestly.
Yes, there's nothing better than the fact that you can say I watched Manning and Brady, or I've watched Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic and Tiger and all that stuff. So yeah, women,
we'll have to debate again next year when they're both Rookie of the Year.
Rookie of the Year. That's right. They're probably huge favorites as well to be that. All right, next question in the great debate. We were talking about it a bit. Shohei Ohtani is coming up in free agency. Many people expect him to be going to the Dodgers. He could also stay in LA with the Angels. It's going to come down to cash. And my question is, there's a question of what is he going to end up making? And Barney, I'll start with you on this one. Will Shohei Ohtani get a $60 million deal per year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And he deserves it.
Yes.
He's making, I think, 30 or 33 this year. Mm-hmm. He makes 40 off the field.
Yeah.
40 off the field. I think the next closest is 4 or 5 million. It's Aaron Judge, I believe.
Ridiculous.
He makes 40. Like, this guy is universal. He's going to go down as the best baseball player ever. Mm-hmm. Like, we're talking Babe Ruth on steroids. This is in a different generation where you have your best hitter as your best pitcher. This guy is the best athlete of all time. We could talk Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders, Michael Jordan for all the things. But what he does in his sport, we'll probably never see again. Mm-hmm. Or it's going to be a long time. We've never seen what he's done or what he is doing. So $60 million, probably still underpaid for what he brings to the table.
He's a $30 million pitcher and he's a $30 million hitter. It's no question. Look what he's doing this season. Leads the league in home runs, RBIs, OPS, slugging. In terms of pitching, he's a top 3 pitcher, 3rd most strikeouts in the league. If you look at opponent's batting average, he leads that. They're only batting 179 against him. No one else is doing this. The issue I have, he's going to get it. But if I'm a team, I don't know if I'm signing that type of contract, depending on the term. Let's say he wants 10 years, right? At $60 million a year. How long is he going to pitch? How long is his body going to hold up? It's going to get to a certain point where maybe he won't be pitching as much, but then what do you do? And I've heard, maybe you can turn him into a closer. But what happens in the 8th or the 9th inning when he's at bat at the top of the 9th, and then he's got to turn it around the bottom of the 9th to become a closer? It just doesn't really work. He's already had elbow surgery. Pitchers now get surgeries all the time, especially the way that they throw and the abuse he's putting his body through. He steals bases a ton. So I think the term is going to be interesting, but should he get the money? Absolutely. I think it's a huge risk, though, later on in his career.
I think that's a very, very valid point. And the idea of how long it's going to be. Next year, the year after that, next 5 years, $60 million is underpaid, because not only is he worth that, he then opens up another roster spot for you too. Like he extends the cap. There's no cap, but you know what I mean? Like the luxury tax and all that stuff. He extends that because now he takes up 2 spots, but it counts as one guy. So you can have another guy in your lineup that you get to spend 20, 30, 40 million on, right? So it really does make it your team an opportunity to make it a lot better. So there's a lot of value there, but I'm with you there on that. Whether or not he's going to be able to hold up to do it for the 10 years. Because every contract we've seen, whether it's Pujols, whether it's A-Rod, all that stuff, it always ends up being those last 4 or 5 years.
I think there's an understanding there that that's going to happen. But it happens with all these baseball players.
Yeah.
But I also want to say, I think MLB needs to do a better job at promoting this guy. I think we're at the point where the MLB should be doing live look-ins online.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, here's Ohtani's pitching this inning. And they show you that. Okay, come back. We'll let you know when he's at bat. Yeah, that's where he's at right now. Remember the McGuire? Remember McGuire Sosa, that home run?
Oh my
thing?
Goodness, that was.
And it'd be live look-ins, like you're watching the news. Oh, McGuire's up. Oh, Sosa's up. Yeah. The MLB should be doing that on digital to grow this, not only this game, but grow. He's the best thing going in this game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when Barney brought up the point of $40 million off the field, and I couldn't believe Judge 4 or 5 million, whatever it is. I mean, that is. He's in New York, but it's such a regional sport, like you say. It's people only watch their team playing, the games, but you got to get a guy like Ohtani out there in front of everybody to create that extra excitement. Yes. But if you can't do that with Judge in New York, I don't know.
You got to get Ohtani into the playoffs. He's got to play in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true too. It's a huge thing for them to get to the playoffs. They're right around it right now, but knowing the Angels, they probably will fall
He's
off.
A big game player too. Look what he did the World Baseball Classic.
I know.
He's got everything. It's unbelievable. No one else in sport is even close, I think.
And the greatest player before him is also his teammate. So, and Mike Trout. So, his team, good Lord.
Yeah, exactly.
How have they not made the playoffs? All right, last one before we go for the day. It's a Toronto Maple Leafs question. It is, who should go? Barney, I'll start with you. If you had to get rid of one, Nylander, Matthews, or Marner.
This should be good.
Who should go or who will go?
Who should go? Who, if you're the GM, who do you think is going to?
Yeah, Barney, you're Brad Tree living right now.
Yeah,
Nylander.
Okay,
because he makes the least, and you're going to get the most return.
Okay,
it's hard to fit the other guys in. Tavares is going nowhere. No one's taking that contract. Marner and Matthews is going nowhere. So the only 2 logical ones that have a chance are Marner and Nylander. Mm-hmm. Marner is more consistent in the regular season. Nylander was their best player in the postseason. But I think for what he makes and what he can get in return, because of his salary, you can get much more return for a William Nylander. And they have to get rid of one of them because they need help on the back end. And if you look at the Vegas Golden Knights, look at that back end, look at the size of that back end. They didn't need the $10 million goalie, but certainly that back end led by Petrangelo and Theodore, that's a stud back end. The Leafs don't advance ever far in the playoffs because their back end is never good enough, not big enough, not physical enough. That's where they got to spend some money.
You can't have too many $10 million players. There's only 3 teams in the NHL that have that problem. It's Florida, Barkov and Bobrovsky. You have the Kings with Doughty and Kopitar. You got the Leafs who got 3 of them. Mm-hmm. Barney's right. You're not going to move John Tavares unless you have a real conversation. That's not happening. He's going to stay there. No, I think it might be Marner, just based on what I've seen from Nylander in the playoffs. If you compare Nylander and Marner in the playoffs, both the way that they play, I like Nylander's game better. And for his next deal, how much is he going to ask for? 9, 10 million, let's say. So I think you can work with that if you get rid of Mitch Marner. You're still going to get a hell of a return for either player. Yeah. I'm with Barney in the sense I think you probably do get more with Nylander, but I think Marner's got to go. I think from what I've seen with Nylander in the playoffs, I like his game. And if you send that Marner salary, you can pick up a couple good pieces.
Sorry, go ahead, Barney. Yeah.
I don't think Matthews will let Marner go.
What do you think Matthews asks for?
Oh, he's going to be
13.5 plus?
Yeah. 13.5, 14.
What does it say though, Barney? If he's like, you know what, I want the most I can get, 14, 14 and a half, 15. What does it say about Matthews?
Says he cares about Austin Matthews.
Yeah.
That's
not a guy you want on the team, right?
If I was him, and this is easy for me to say because it's not my money. Right. And I'm always get as much money as you can.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're going to never need this money, like the difference between $12.5 million and $14 million, at the end of the day, it's like $750,000 a year. Like by the time you pay taxes and your agent and all that,
right,
to help your team want to win. If I was making that kind of money, I would be like, I don't need to be $14 million. I can be in that 12.5 range, take an 8-year deal. I'm going to have so much money. And now I have a chance to make our team better and get our team to where it needs to be. We can have another $2 million. Maybe Marner, when he's up next time, doesn't take as much. And I think that's, you look at Crosby, you look at all the greats, that's what they try to do. And I think that's the ultimate teammate. It's not the difference between getting $7 million and $10 million or 7 and 11. We're talking $1.5 million, $2 million after taxes. Just be a good teammate.
It's a good point. What was it? Isn't Eichel the first player to ever win a Stanley Cup, making $10 million plus?
10, yeah.
And he sure as heck ain't the first player to make $10 million. And there's a point to be made.
He's sure as hell worth $10 million.
Yeah, absolutely based on the way he plays.
Lindros was making $10 million a year when we played on the Rangers together.
Yeah,
holy cow.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure during the non-salary cap, right? Yager too.
Our salary cap was 90. Our payroll was 91 or 92 million. Back in 01 to 04.
Jesus.
Yeah. I think Carolina was 12 million.
12 million. There you go. I'm Austin Matthews. I want every penny that Carolina paid.
Austin, listen, if he wants to be the highest paid player in the league, 12.7 does that. Yep. It's not going to be 12.7, but cap's going up $1 million, 13.5. And if they move a piece in the core 4, which I think you have to do, like you cannot run it back.
You can't.
Someone's got to go. Yes, exactly.
Insanity, trying the same thing over and over.
And Barney, they need defense. They probably if you're gonna go with Samsonov and Walls, you're 1-2.
I guess
that's not a Stanley Cup contending.
Well, Aiden Hill won it, so
no, that's true. That's the thing. You can always go back to that, right? Defense is huge. Defense is massive. And look, Ryan O'Reilly. There's reports that he wants to come back. Mm-hmm. How does that work with those 4 guys?
No, look,
that means you're doing the same thing over again.
If you're Austin Matthews, you have to decide. Do I want to win or do I want to make every penny I can? And there's lots of players out there that'll say, I just want to make my money. And that is totally, totally fine. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a Stanley Cup, how are you going to feel? I don't think it's the end of the world if you do or you don't. But if you can make $150 million and have a Stanley Cup, Barney, what would you do?
Everyone always asks, this is a question I used to ask a lot of people. Would you rather $3 million in your bank with a Stanley Cup ring or 10 million without a Stanley Cup ring? I'm taking the 10 million without the ring.
Me too.
Because it's a big difference, 3 million to 10 million.
Mm-hmm.
If it's 2 to 3, I'm taking 2 million with the Stanley Cup ring. We're talking, he's going to have 100 million in the bank or 115 million.
Yeah.
Take the Stanley Cup ring, 100 million, you're going to make $10 million a year in interest. Like, come on.
But how much does this family play a factor in all this?
I would say, depending on where you are, and let's use the top end players versus the middle players. If you have a Stanley Cup ring, family is absolutely everything. It's money. Money is always number one.
Yeah.
But once you have the money, then you're going, it's Stanley Cup. What gives me the best chance of winning a Stanley Cup? And family. So, if you've already won 2 Stanley Cup rings, now you're going for the money and you're going for way of life for the family. You're going somewhere hot. You're going to Arizona. You're going to LA. You're going to go there. But if you haven't won a Stanley Cup and money is being equal, then you're going Stanley Cup. And it all depends on where you are, how much you make. But family obviously has a big part. But I'd say money and a chance to win a cup are the two most important.
Yeah, you can't blame the guy for wanting to take care of himself and his family. Right?
Of course,
no, you can't do that.
No, and listen, like, success is deemed on other things than just winning, a Stanley Cup or winning an NBA championship or whatever. There's 100% to that. But like Barney, you make a great point. 100 million and 110 million dollars. I mean, and a Stanley Cup or no Stanley Cup, it seems pretty.
And there's
easy.
Still money to be made after your career.
Well, I think winning a Stanley Cup probably adds like a lot of posts. Like, look, he's going to be the greatest leave of all time if he stays till the end of his career.
Probably.
But if you're also the guy who brought a Stanley Cup to Toronto, I mean, you're going to save $10 million on restaurant tabs alone because you're never going to pay for a meal again.
And by all accounts, he's treated like a king by the organization and everyone here. So, I mean, he's in a great position.
If you got like $5 million in the bank, and this is crazy money when we start talking money.
Yeah.
And you're getting a chance to hit your first contract, and a team offers you $50 million, another team offers you $40 million. You're taking the $50 million, even if it's the worst team in the league. That's setting your family for generations, and that's understandable. But when you already have $100 million, and you're going to make another $100 million, what's the difference for another $10 million before taxes? It just doesn't make logical sense. Go win a cup.
Bobby, how are we going to start making some of this dough, me, man?
I know.
Yeah.
Like the other day, Gary Trent Jr. got to opt into his $18 million.
What are you
That's
opting
nice.
into next year?
I'm opting into my $18 million. What time is it? Oh, crap. I got to opt into that $18 million contract before it's too late.
Oh, smokes.
Sweet deal. That is a sweet deal. All right, boys. Well, the great debate was a hell of a debate. Nothing gets the debate going like the Toronto Maple Leafs.
No.
All right.
Well, great.
It's been a fantastic show. Yes. I think that great debate was very successful. We will have that back, perhaps with a little bit of extra graphic and music, but we got a big weekend coming up. Look, not every weekend can be the Masters, Super Bowl, and some other crazy thing.
We got the Travelers.
We got the Travelers. The Jays are back. They're playing Oakland. They're going to sweep all weekend long. The weather's going to be great here in Toronto. Barney, you'll be golfing every single day. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, boys, have a great weekend. Albert Vartanian and Matthew Barnaby, thank you very much for joining me. This has been the Parleh Show with Bet99.